Okay, so we're about to explore a really strange connection, one that links a family ghost story, a global doomsday clock, and the horror movies that we all love to watch. It all kicks off with a clock that stopped ticking at the perfect, or maybe the most terrifying moment.
This quote comes from a story posted on a paranormal forum on Reddit. The person who wrote it says it still gives them chills, even today. And well, you're about to find out why.
So the story begins right after the user's grandfather passed away in his log cabin, which was way out in the middle of nowhere. A few days later, the family was there, sorting through his stuff when something really, really bizarre happened.
Suddenly, the author hears their mom just scream from the bathroom, a room that only their grandfather had really used for years. They ran in to see what was wrong, and the source of her terror was not at all what they were expecting.
She was pointing up at the wall clock. Its hands were completely frozen at 5:45. But here's the part that'll make your skin crawl. It was still ticking. So they went and checked the other 4 or 5 clocks in the house, and they found the exact same thing. All of them were old analog clocks, all stuck at 5:45, and all still ticking. And right then, the whole cabin suddenly filled with the smell of cigarette smoke, his signature scent.
And here's the kicker. As the author later confirmed, their grandfather had passed away at exactly 5:45 a.m. The clocks hadn't just stopped. They had marked the precise moment he died. Now, what's so incredible about this is that this family's experience, it's not unique. This kind of thing actually has a name, and it's been documented for decades.
It's known as a death coincidence, a moment where it seems like the physical world itself reacts to a person's passing.
And look, this isn't just folklore or some old wives' tale. A parapsychology researcher, Dr. Louisa Rhine, actually collected hundreds of these stories at Duke University all the way back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, trying to see if there was a pattern to it all.
And guess what? She found one. In her huge collection of cases where objects just moved or acted weirdly for no reason, she discovered that over half of them, 53%, were directly linked to the exact moment someone died.
And the reports weren't only about clocks. People talked about lights flickering on and off, dishes suddenly shattering, or a picture, and this is a common one, a picture of the person who had just passed inexplicably falling right off the wall. It was almost like a final goodbye.
So this idea of a clock marking an endpoint, well, it can be scaled up big time. We go from a clock stopping for one person's end to a symbolic clock that's ticking down for every single one of us.
So you've got these two clocks, right? The grandfather's clock looks to the past, marking a personal end. But the other one, the doomsday clock, that's a warning about our collective future. It was created way back in 1947 by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, and it's a symbol for how close we are to a global man-made catastrophe. For this clock, midnight, that means annihilation. And as of January 2024, that clock is set to 90 seconds to midnight. Let that sink in. In its entire 77-year history, that is the closest it has ever been to total catastrophe. I mean, just a few years ago, we were at 100 seconds to midnight. That jump to 90 seconds in 2023 was a massive warning. And in 2024, the scientists basically said, nope, no reason to move it back. The trends, as they put it, continued to point ominously towards global catastrophe. So why are we so close? Well, the reasons are pretty much a greatest hits list of our modern anxieties. Ongoing wars with the risk of nuclear escalation, a brand new nuclear arms race, the climate crisis getting worse and worse, and the totally unpredictable threat of rapidly advancing artificial intelligence.
This feeling, right? This constant background hum of anxiety about everything ending, whether it's personal or global, it's something we're all weirdly fascinated by. We can't help but tell stories about it. And that fascination, that is the absolute lifeblood of the horror genre.
You see, horror filmmakers are experts in making us feel unsettled, just like that family in the cabin. And one of their best tools is what's called the ambiguous ending. It's specifically designed to deny you that feeling of relief, leaving you confused, shaken up, and thinking about the movie long after the credits roll. Just think about the end of John Carpenter's The Thing. It doesn't end with the monster being defeated. It ends with pure, unresolved paranoia. Or The Shining, which leaves you with that impossible photograph and this chilling feeling of madness that's never explained. These endings don't care about tying up loose ends. They want you to leave feeling the film's central theme. This obsession with making things feel real leads us to another really powerful technique, found footage. And, as you can see, these films are often super cheap to make.
but can bring in huge profits. Why? Because their power is in making it all look real, like a home video or a story you just stumble across online.
The magic trick behind found footage is something called a diegetic camera. Now that sounds fancy, but all it means is the camera is part of the story. A character is holding it, they know it's there. And that technique just shatters the invisible wall between you and what's happening on screen.
It works because it mimics real stuff, home videos, documentaries. It also traps you so you can only see what the character sees, and all of that creates this incredible sense of immediacy. The fear just feels raw, unfiltered, kind of like that sudden, chilling discovery of the stopped clocks.
So, all of this brings us to one last really big question. Why are we so drawn to these stories? Why do we seek out tales of hauntings, apocalypses, and terrifying movies in the first place?
Well, the answer seems to be that they give us a safe space to work through things. Whether it's a spooky Reddit post, the doomsday clock, or a horror film, these stories give us a way to process our deepest, scariest fears, all from a safe distance. As the film scholar Peter Turner says, they make us imagine that what we're watching could be real. They blur that line just enough to make the fear feel real and visceral, which lets us confront these massive ideas like death and oblivion in a way we can actually handle. From a grandfather's little cabin to the entire world stage, the stopped clock is this powerful symbol we use to make sense of the end. It's how we deal with our fear. But here's the thing. The story of the grandfather's clocks, that's about an ending that's already happened. The doomsday clock, that's about one that hasn't. Yet. And that leaves us with the most unsettling question of all. What happens when the story is real and our own clock is at 90 seconds?